another session of our help desk workshop, right? Um, I'm Erick Barreat, your co-host, and then we have Laura. And today I'm a nerd out. All right, I looked at the topic for today. It's something that I love. So let's share my
So
screen. Go ahead.
I I was, at first I think that we need to acknowledge that last time we said that we were going to cover some programming languages, and we thought of this idea of having to, like, to shrink the gap that exists between the user and the developer on how do you want to achieve stuff, because you as a developer and as an owner of EV have faced, these I want to accomplish. So in order to do that, we do. But in that, while I was doing the research and we went through some material, I found some interesting stuff that are like the best practices for software development. And so this is where you nerding out is like, I love this. And basically, this is we come up with this subject, and we're gonna just present the basic programming skills next week.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, so um, today we're talking about the software understanding gap. So there's a gap in how we understand software, right? And as a business owner and as a small business, and it's important because in order to select software, you got to understand it, and also in order to create software, you got to understand it.
Yeah.
And if you want software to be created for you, you got to understand it.
Yes, and I mean, this investigation led us to that report that was actually brought up and just recently published. I thought it was interesting that a lot of these entities that exist in order to regulate the environment of software are, making it functional for everyone, and the owners, which are anyone that could be listened to with an idea of having to develop something, needs to make sure that they are, functional to their objectives, safe in their own environment, and to be able to trust. So trust is a big word in the landscape now, in terms of where is your information laying and all of that. So I thought it was super interesting. So can't wait to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, understanding builds trust, right? It's right here. I love how it's put here, right? Um, a mission to have owners and operators trust the system is functional, safe, and in a secure environment.
Hmm.
So definitely a very important here, right? But let's take a step back. What are we really here for? We're here for you guys. This workshop is for the audience. So if you're out there, you're listening. We are monitoring all of the chats. We can invite you onto the talk. We can invite you as a guest on the talk, and we can have a conversation here. We can share a link with you and have you ask your questions here on camera live with us, and have you be part of the conversation. That is the focus here. That is what we're trying to do with this workshop and with these sessions every Tuesdays and Thursdays, is for you guys to bring your topics. What do you guys want to talk about? What are some problems or headaches that you're dealing with right now? And well, sometimes you just need a soundboard, right? Let's talk about it. Let's talk it through, and we'll bring our experience and our possible solutions as to how you would fix that, and well, we'll take it from there. So we're here to help you. We're here. This is Think about it as an IT office hour or a technology office hour, where you can just come in and go as you please, ask the questions, Maybe there's a problem that you don't know how to solve, and you just give us the problem. We'll give you an answer for free. This is completely free. Um, if you need, now, if we need to do help you with building it, or help you with the solution in any way, then we'll talk about. Well, that's when we can probably negotiate. We'll talk offline about that. But um, this is supposed to be completely free for you guys. No, no quid pro quo here. There's nothing you have to give. Just give us your problems. We'll talk about it. We'll give you a solution. And no, nothing. That's it. Just give it. Just That's it. It's free. That's what free is, right? We don't expect anything more. Don't expect anything less, and that's it.
That's all
If you
right.
want, yeah, if you want more, then we'll talk about that offline, and we'll talk about just build that relationship. So, you got any questions? Let's talk about it. EB DevTech's mission is to make the world a better place, one solution at a time, and so that's why we're doing this. We're putting our time and efforts towards our goal, and that's why we supply this workshop every Tuesday and Thursday.
All right.
What did we talk about last time?
So actually, everything is condensed in this blog post that I just finished yesterday. I promised it on Tuesday, and yesterday got published. So there's you went through a very common list of threats for small businesses and how can they achieve, their security plan and steps to create a disaster and recovery plan. So that was great. So no matter the industry that you are in, you can be facing this type of problems, and there's things that you could do about it. So they were all covered in a blog post that is on our website. It's actually the last blog post published. You can go to our website and visit it.
Awesome. Yeah, and Laura did a fantastic job on this. So it comes from the NIST, so it's backed by a U.S. They're part of the Department of Commerce. So they designed this for small business. So it's a free
Resource.
template, yeah, free resource and template that you can use in your organization. If you don't have the resources to hire an IT person, so for now, and right, as a business owner myself, we wear multiple hats, and well, it's always making sure that you're making the most informed decisions, even with your technology. I would say even more so with your technology, because as you grow, people are going to use the technology that you've built or that you've chosen, right? So yeah, Laura did a great job on that cybersecurity guide. So these blog posts, they're vetted by everybody on the team, right? Um, we we talk about them. Laura creates a first draft, and then we make sure that it's applicable. Everything that's there. So the entire team reviews it. We provide our feedback, and then so this is vetted by us, by the actual operations team, and we make sure that it's appropriate. All right. Sorry, Laura, you have a bit of some background noise back there.
Sorry.
No worries. So today's session, what is this gap in software and in its understanding? Then we'll provide some. What are the frameworks, right? How do you analyze those frameworks to build successful products? What's the difference between a framework and a programming language? And and I just want to add something here, since it's in how it's written, language, right? So what you'll hear from me talk about from this perspective, where it comes to programming languages and frameworks, I distinctly relate it to the English language, right? So you have to learn English, and you have to learn vocabulary, and you have to learn syntax of the English language, and you have to learn the language. Once
Mhm.
you understand and you did that in elementary school, right? So then once you learn the language, then they start teaching you how to write essays and ethos and different types of, persuasive essays, different types of what I would call frameworks as to how you would apply that language,
To
um,
anything.
into anything, right? and
Yeah.
and so that is pretty much how that works in programming. You pick a language, you learn that language, you understand the structure of the language, the syntax, um, and then you go from there.
What was that?
It's me over here.
I love how you said something about the language. And all I thought was one time, and just to keep you in within the same subject, that is super interesting because there was one time that I broke up with someone, and this was someone that, within the realm of software development, I think. I thought to tell him, you know what, my requirements do not meet your standards. My requirements are not met by your standards. So I'm afraid we're going to have to go off to, our own ways.
You don't meet
To
these
do.
conditions.
I love it. It's like I need to be talked, and you need to be talked in a way that, and so this applies to everything. I just love it.
It's communication, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's, language is part of communication. And that's what I love about technology, because at its root, it's a communication device,
Mm-hmm.
right? You get, again, going back to networking. It all goes back to communication, and
Mm-hmm.
the language as to how it's communicating. It's all just communication, telling the machine what to do, then the machine telling the human on how to
Mm-hmm.
do it and what to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all, actually, I was just talking to one of our partners this morning, um, where he was talking about how important communication is, and why he loves working with us because of our level of communication and how we were efficient, in our communication, and we're very clear in our communication. And he's like, man, it's hard to find that in the tech industry. And I tell him all the time, like, that's the root. That is, we're passionate
In
about
essence.
technology, and it's the essence of technology. Like, that's why
Yeah.
this is what we're doing. This is the type of business and company that we're trying to build, and it's all rooted in communication. And that's the team that we're also building here at EV DevTech. So it's really, um, as I'm talking about this and continue, there's always more to learn and more to
Yeah.
master, in the space. Right now it's mainly about AI, and that's where my main focus and research is at the moment. How to apply that AI, or if if a client of ours comes with a problem, how can I solve that with AI, or is AI a valid possible
Mm-hmm.
solution for that problem? And then also, is it going to be more cost effective, than building, a more traditional program, or just build it with algorithms, right? So, anyways, that's today's session. And then how does this translate to the user, right? So, um, technology is a medium, right? Technology is a medium of communication. It's all communication. So, it's a broker, right? You have a middleman in between your communication.
Mm.
And
Good
that is so
analogy.
important. That is
Yes.
so important, because if you ever played telephone,
Which we all have.
Right, and in some
Yeah.
cases we do, like a lot of corporate America, most of it is telephone. How does it go from the top down or from the bottom up? Um, and you know technology is the framework or the software that you use is going to be that medium between your developers or the brokers or your users and the clients, right? It's always a middle, it's always in the
Hmm.
middle of something. And it's like, how well are you playing that telephone game in your processes using these technologies? So it's very important. We're extremely service oriented. We think about everything from the perspective of the user, of the client, of the actual person that's going to be using the software that we're building for them, or the integrations that we're building for them. And so it's very important, extremely important, that we we're talking in English. The way that we do our processes is that we talk about it in English, and then we translate it to technology, and then
Hmm.
we double check at the end. Is like, did is this the message? Is this the medium? Is our medium using technology actually providing the value to the end user? And so it's so important. And I think, like, if you're listening, if you're a programmer, if you're a developer, software engineer, AI engineer, like, that's a huge differentiator between a good engineer and a great
Hmm.
engineer.
Yep.
So, a key benefits of choosing the right framework, and I guess we'll talk about that later. So, what is this software understanding gap? Right? So, it's making sure that we have the functionality, we have the safety, we have the security across all the possible scenarios of that software, whether it's normal operations. We can't trust We can never think about all the possible ways that a user might interact with the software. I mean, the more experienced we are, the more kind of scenarios we already kind of know from experience. So that's good. But right, so you always have a use case, you have a normal use case, and that's how you built the software to always work. And
Hmm.
then over time, your users introduce you to things that are abnormal.
Like,
And
what? What is it that you want again? What? Okay.
or just, they upload a document that you had no idea they were going to try to upload, and that's not part of how you design what you built for them, right?
Hmm.
Or even, um, yeah, so just scenarios like that. It's so hard to think about it because it happens every time. It
Hmm.
happens
Yep.
every time we're building software. We think that we've thought about everything, and then we go into production,
Boom.
and then and it might not be immediately. It might work. Like, I have software that we've built out there for years, and we haven't touched it in years, and it's been in production, and then boom, 7 years later, we
Hmm.
finally run into this, like,
A
weird
gap.
use case of,
Hmm.
like, that the user tried it for the first time in 7 years, and they present it to us as a problem, and we're like, holy crap, okay.
Mm.
we
Clever.
that was like, wow, okay, awesome,
That-
let's go, let's use it, like, that, like, it
exactly.
reinvigorates that experience of, like, awesome, we're building this. um,
Exactly.
we can improve the software, we know how to improve it. So that's good, and so that's abnormal. And then when we talk about hostile, um, there's the users that have the good intention to use the software, and then there's the users that have the bad intentions of that
Hmm.
software.
Yep.
um, and so that's where the cybersecurity mostly comes into play. That's not only the cybersecurity, but the social security of the application, right?
Hmm.
Can it be used to harm? society or
Mm-hmm.
children or kids.
Yep.
And when you first design, and I'm gonna use a great example here with AI. And you have the AI video generators and the image generators, and for the most part, if you, for the good intention, you have the cat videos, making
Yeah.
coffee, and the dog videos and stuff like that, and that's how it's being used. But then you have the bad intention of the same technology,
Mm-hmm.
um, for scamming people or spreading misinformation, or sexualizing, a famous celebrity. And so those are common things that happen out in the world. And as as a creator, um, you have to have some sort of responsibility,
Yeah.
for those.
Just yesterday, I was looking into a little article about that because of these specific, how everything just plays and you're down in that, okay, this is interesting and interesting. And one of the things that someone mentioned over there is that at some point we are transforming the world in another place that we have never been. And of course you are going to need all of these little building blocks that are going to start from the top to the bottom in order for
You
them
read
to
that
be.
somewhere, or did you hear it directly from me? I say that
I
all the
think
time in
I
our
think
meetings.
yeah, like, but in you know what? But the thing is that when you said the creator, there's also going to be jobs that are gonna be destructing this.
Yes.
So it's almost like we are going to be needing that opposite side of these things that are we're building up. That I thought there was like, these things could be as simple as and as complicated as, and of course we're talking about super, like, I can't think of someone that would want to live, their sexualization. I mean, these are people in high level that are, they already have that stress. How come you're just building them to giving them more
More
crap?
stress. Yeah, more
Sorry
crap.
for the word, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's I can't think of it because it's not in my realm of understanding. But sensationalism, I
Yes.
guess,
Yeah, that's
will always be
sensationalist for
there.
sure. Yeah, that's it's and people are always going to people, and
Yeah,
you have to account for that, when you're creating, things that people are going to be using. Um, so it's it's tough. It's tough to be a solution architect. It's tough creating, um, um, public facing software that's going to be friendly and, um, within the guidelines to be used by everyone. Um, but I mean, for the most part, there's always going to be more good than bad, right? And it's always going to be what you're looking for, um, as a human, right? So, uh, there's a saying out there that whatever you're looking for, you're going to find.
yeah,
And so, if you're looking for bad use cases, or you're looking for those bad scenarios or software to be used
yeah.
for bad, you're going to find it. But I would like to think that that's the the exception and not the norm, right? Definitely more good in the world than
Me too.
yeah. So yeah, so let's keep going, right? So that's all of that goes into your software understanding. Like if you're gonna pick, um, software, you want to know, okay, what functionality does it have? What safety measures and security, does it have for all of the conditions? And right, and what are those conditions, right? How is it normally supposed to be used? And you have to be creative enough to think of outside the box, outside of the written, standard operating procedure, as to what else could it be used for, good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes you hear you hear QA engineers joke about this all the time, or developers joke about this all the time, of like, oh, that's how it was designed. Like, oh, that's not a bug, that's a feature, right? Like it was designed that way. Um, and it's true. Like sometimes we developed something that, and it was used in an abnormal way, um, and we give ourselves a pat in the back that we never thought about it being used that way, and it was able to use it, right, and it was able
Mm-hmm.
to actually
Be a
fulfill the request.
breakthrough.
Yeah,
Yep.
still keep going, like still it didn't
Yeah.
break the software.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, the owners, operators generally lack the adequate capacity for software understanding. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, we deal with clients all the time where um, they're paranoid. They have been in bad situations with software or relationships or IT people that have um, scammed them in some way. Um, and so there's a reason why you hire an IT department or a technology um, firm. And a big part of that is trust and best interest into your company, and um, that they'll be there when things are good and when things are bad. And so, and these owners and these leaders, um, they put you into that room because they're in the business. They're in the business side of things, and they lack that knowledge of software understanding. They're not computer engineers. They don't build software. They want to use it. They want to better their business and grow their business. Um, and so that's part to, you know, so what this is talking about here with technology manufacturers building software that greatly outpaces their inability to understand it, creating a software understanding gap. That is very true with big software, like big ERP systems, the sales forces of the world, um, where they've built such big components of software that they've lost the story, right? It's like because every software has a story, and of how it's supposed to be used, what's the balance, what's the who are the users, the user personas that are going to be using the software. So it's all, you can all build it into a story. Um, but man, you start to lose people's attentions if you write something that is now a monolith of with a story that doesn't make sense anymore, right? And that's what's happened with a lot of these big softwares, and that's why AI is such a great innovator in technology, because now we're able to um, refine that story, make that story make sense faster, connect the chapters, right? Connect each of the parts of the software to make a cohesiveness of how the software as a whole is supposed to be used for the user. Um, if they understand this, if they understand how to use it right correctly, um, and I want to say that I hope most are. If they're listening, please take that into consideration. A lot of AI, with the AI is like, how can I have it write my emails, and how can I have it rewrite this code? Um, you can get so much more out of it if you try to use it as a tool that helps you with the story, right? Think of Jarvis from Iron Man, where like, here's the design. How can I improve the design? That like you're still in control. You're the one that's going to validate whether that design will make sense or not. um, but you're the bridge. You are the bridge in that communication between your users and the technology, right? Like you're the one making those come together. And so that's how I think it should be used. And so I think that that leads to an inability to create software um, that is not only secure, um, but that a user would like to, that cares, that you want to create software that users like using, that users care about using. And if you build this huge system that is not understandable and there's huge gaps of understanding, not only from those creating it but from leadership and from sales, then you're you're doing a very poor job to your end users, because you're not giving them a good story. You're not even giving them a full story. You're giving them a story that that has gaps in its design.
Mhm.
um, that
And
once, yeah,
the key word here, I think, is continuity.
yes,
Yeah.
you want that continuity, because once you have that story, you can continue the story. You can
Mm-hmm.
continue building the story. You can come back and you can refine the earlier parts of the story so that it does have continuity and flow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's very important here. And the design, that secure design is important because you might have a weak design, a weak story. And so when problems come about, when defects are discovered, then it just takes longer to fix it, because um, you're breaking other things as you're trying to fix it. Because you don't have that. Oh, hold on, my headphones died.
Straight.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, but I can't hear you. Give me 1 second.
Do you have an echo?
There we go. I'm back. No,
Okay.
my headphones died. Um, so once a problem is discovered, a defect is discovered, a bug or whatever, it just takes so much more time to fix it, because there was gaps in its design, gaps in the stories, and so now um, you don't know how to you think you fix it, and then you go to test it, and then it throws another error, and so now you have to keep fixing all the pipes, fixing all the holes, all the gaps. And then also to maintain it, it's going to take more time. It just takes more time at that point, because you have to continuously um, be fixing everything as you build it. And so the maintenance of there gets slower. And then also to scale is going to be harder. Um, and then um, it's also going to be harder to fill those software exploits, those um, because now you might have multiple holes in that, and well, you will plug it here, but you also applied that same thing in all of these other places, and if you don't have a good story about how where all those things are, then you're not gonna be able to secure all of it. um, so yeah, and this is important for all types. This is a software thing, any type of software. It's a software industry um, issue, right? It can be as simple as GPS, or some very direct microservices, to complete complicated systems. And so it's very important. It's very important to understanding what gaps, and I always relate back to stories, because um,
Everything starts with one.
exactly, exactly. So how do you build a successful product? Well, you need to know the story as to why you need to build it.
Aside from that,
Yeah. So aside from that, this is where the importance of frameworks come into play.
Yep.
Frameworks create predictability, they create scalability, and repeatability, right? So,
Yeah.
very important. You learned how to write, you learned how to speak English, you know how to write in English, you know how to structure sentences and paragraphs, um, you know how to structure questions and solutions. And so, that's very the basics of writing language. And then from there, um, how do you go from there? How do you build persuasive essay or a big article, um, a white paper, right? How do you create an entire story that from beginning to the end um, has you won't lose the reader, you won't lose the expression of understanding, the emotions that you're trying to have them feel. So this is where framework comes into play. In every A lot of what we do in technology is all about framework. So you choose frameworks based off of these things, right? The functionality that framework provides, and how it respects other frameworks and how it can be connected to other frameworks, right? The handoff between one chapter to the next or one paragraph to the next. Um, and so that's very important. You want to have consistency in those frameworks um, for large distribution, or especially if you have large teams, right? The Apples of the world, the Metas, the Microsofts, um, all these big players, they have a framework that they follow, and you have those that are part of the teams that work inside of the framework, and then there's those that need to that govern that the processes of the framework are being done. So the checks and balances of those frameworks as well. um, Documentation as well, because that's what's going to dictate why is this story being told, what is the purpose of this
Mhm.
story, what is being done, right? So that's kind of documentation is very important when it comes to programming. Why did we create this microservice? Why, so it's extremely important, because you need you need to not only be able to um, create the product, but you also need to document how the product was made. Um, you have to understand history, and what is history? It's just a story of the past, right? So it's still a story, right? The documentation, and a lot of the cases, and I used to have this problem too. Early on in my career, is like, man, I dreaded documentation. Um, but the way I started loving it is by creating it into stories and making it, a story that not only I would be able to understand, but um, making those stories available to everyone that anybody could understand. Um, Not even, from leadership all the way down to the end user. Um, and so that's very important.
Yep. So you sent me something. It was actually marketing related, but it did had some sort of like an example of a framework in regards to telling a story, and it was the therefore and but framework. So it
Yes.
was it was
South Park.
uh, so it was a great example. I mean, if you think about it, we're talking about a software. In the example that we're listing is a web framework, but it even applies to the simplicity of telling a story, of a joke, of a marketing message, of anything. So that's super interesting, and I think that we're leaving. I've seen more examples about how people are improving their storytelling tactics in terms of, and that really does, in a very clever way, communicates to you guys. to what is the user really wanting and experience and how are they. But this was one of the importance of using a good framework. I thought that even it listed at last, I thought that was the most important, the active community, because
Yes,
nothing is such a more credibility add-in and then the base user support.
absolutely. I completely agree. Any software that we choose, it's important. Any libraries that we use, any frameworks that we use, we talk about that as a team. What frameworks are we going to do? How are we going to plug them in? How are we going to architect all the frameworks to work together? And so that the reputation and having that active community within the framework, um, because from a software development, there's a new framework that comes out every week. There's someone is always thinking that, oh, I can make this better and I can create a better framework and I can build it and I can this and that. And so um, that's where you want to choose something that you want it to be updated and maintained, but you don't want those changes to be drastic all the time. You want you because then you're just maintaining the changes in all your codes and all your
Hmm.
projects and all that, and you have to change. And I've been through that. Google's done some of that to me earlier
Oh.
on in their when when Google Cloud was younger. They did that to me a lot,
Mhm.
where I would start writing uh, using some of their frameworks and using some of their services, and then couple months
Boom,
later it's
they change.
completely changed and
Oh.
different or deprecated, and so now I have to use a new I have to change all of the code and figure, not all of the code, but I have to go and spend time updating it and making it again. So having a good reputation is extremely important. It goes into selecting a good software because um, if the majority of people are selecting that software or that framework, that means that it's providing them value, and that's what you're looking for, right? If
Hmm.
is getting that value, and people want to find that value. So that's extremely important. Also, having an active community from a developer's perspective is night and day for support. Because
Yep.
something, if you're trying to do something, most of the time you just look into the community and see if someone else has done it, and that could accelerate your programming so much faster.
Yep.
So, all right. So now frameworks versus programming languages.
Yeah. So I added this little message as most of us because this doesn't happen to you, but it did happen to me. That I wanted you to tell us about programming language, but wait a minute, we can't go that far. That can be escalated that quickly. So I was confused. So this is eye opening.
Yeah. Um, s- yeah. There's two concepts here. They're two separate things, but they're related in that they're related. You use one for the other, right? You can't
Mm-hmm.
have a framework without a programming language.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if it's a programming framework, right?
Yes.
So they're all an abstraction of itself. You go from the lowest level of detail all the way to um, a high level point of view, and it's the same thing. There's multiple philosophies, we can talk about it here. um, Scripture, right? How you write a book, you have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple writing styles as well, so that's what a framework is something to kind of just give structure to um, to whatever you're doing. In this case, we're talking about programming, and that's kind of how we do. There are IT frameworks. There's IT management frameworks. There's cybersecurity frameworks. Um, There's compliance frameworks. That's why you have the SOC 2 compliance, PCI compliance. Those are frameworks um, as to, creating the rules, some guardrails as to how you write program, and not only write program, but how you secure it, and how you manage the people and the users that use the programs. So um, there's frameworks from programming all the way up to using the programming, to securing the programming, to um, this choosing the programming, choosing the program or software that you're going to use. So very, very, although two separate concepts, a framework is just a wrapper of a programming language. Um,
A
and they're,
rapper. I like
yeah,
that. Yep.
yep,
Mm-hmm. It's a
um,
rap.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
You, I related to what are those? What are those grandma candies? The strawberry grandma candies. What's it called?
Uh, oh, you know what? I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, the bonbons.
The
Well, what?
bonbons, yes. Oh, you're right. Exactly. It's the rapper.
Yeah, you know what it is based off its wrapper, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Here it is, the bonbons.
Correct.
Right? You know that it's this candy because of this wrapper, and that's what a
Mm-hmm.
framework does, right? It
Yeah.
helps. It helps you
Identify
identify what
only by
this is,
looking
and
at the cover.
again, you know what it is
I
by its
can
cover.
taste I can actually taste it in
My
my
mouth
mouth
is my yeah, my
now.
mouth
Ah,
is
I'm
salivating.
hungry. Okay.
And then the good stuff is underneath it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so that's what a framework does. A good framework will be known by its wrapper, by its name, um, by its reputation, right? And so that's good, and that's necessarily good. If there's a lot of good things, well, from there you can gauge it, right? What are the people saying? How are people using this framework? Happy with it, right? Look at the reviews. Um, and then the programming language is just the good stuff inside it that you get to savor, and build. Now you get to build within the framework. The reason we like frameworks from the development side, mainly from keeping structure and repetitive, and helping us not write
Yeah.
as much lines of code, especially things that have been done so many times
Yeah.
already, like
Mm-hmm.
creating a button, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, all we care about is how does the button need to look, and what action does the button need to do after it's clicked, right? So that's what frameworks help with, um, make us more efficient. But yeah, and also from a business perspective, when you select a framework, usually that's where you're going to have um, more competition, more market, more more resources available for that framework, um, and that means that if there's more competition, it might be a lot cheaper
Mm-hmm.
to use that framework. And so that's also really good. That's something to take into consideration from a business perspective as well. Is the cost of the framework, and the cost of the resources that will work on that framework, and that's what we need to take into account, right? If especially like AI right now, AI, we're now starting to see a lot more frameworks, but when it first um, started to be more popular, there was no the DevOps frameworks for that were kind of very manual. And so now we're starting to see a lot more AI DevOps
Scalability.
frameworks, and that
Mm-hmm.
will help us scale and things like that. And they're being
Mm-hmm.
built into um, the cloud platforms. Um, and that's important, extremely important. But yeah, frameworks help build many things. But they usually have a purpose, and that's to create structure, whether that's a web app, a mobile app, or for data science. Like there's frameworks for all sorts of things. um, and they're kind of they accelerate the projects. They make sure that the projects get done faster. Also, can save you money. If you choose the wrong if you choose the wrong framework, and then because you want to choose, you have an ego and you decide that I want to use this framework, um, and then you go to the market because now you've built that framework and now you need help building within that framework, and you go to the market to find someone to help you, and you find out that, oh, it's 500 hours, $500 an hour to hire
Yeah.
someone that uses this framework. Um, yeah,
So
you kind
okay,
of
I'm not
screwed
gonna
yourself.
scale like that.
Yeah,
Oops.
you're gonna keep building it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Oops.
Um, so how does that translate to the user, right? We just talked about cost, right? If you're building this for a client, for a user, then if pricing and cost, which is always going to be part of the conversation, it needs to be part of why you choose that framework. um, Most of the time it's for acceleration of the project and making sure that we can go to the market as soon as possible, and we'll be able to not only um, grow that product that we're building, but also being able to scale the team and get more help, and we know that there's going to be a community out there that and resources out there that we'd be able to try to, that talent acquisition portion, and acquire that talent,
Flexibility. Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and be able to bring them and apply, not only apply them to our product or our project, but then also um, they'll be able, if they are real experts, or if they do have a true understanding of the framework, they should be able to really pick up in the project quickly, and start continue to build and continue to scale, and start providing value to the actual programming of 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 the project. How do you know which programming framework is right for you? Well,
We
that's
can tell
how.
you.
Yeah, we could tell you. um,
We don't have an answer for that no, just now.
yeah, it, it's important. Like it requires knowledge. It
Mm-hmm.
requires knowledge. It requires experience, um, and it requires a very intimate understanding of what are we going to do with that framework, and that's important. That's important to building it. And that's, we can help with that as well. Choosing the right framework. Um, we're constantly reanalyzing, like, we're we kind of have a decision to be framework agnostic. We have the framework. We Every time we start a project, it's part of our discovery and requirement phase of, like, okay, what's the
Analyzing.
framework?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we analyze the architecture of what frameworks would be able to perform best for what we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to do here. And so it's part of every conversation to every new project. It's because And so that kind of helps us to be framework agnostic, because, like I mentioned earlier, these frameworks are always changing, and one of them is best for this at some point, and then down the time, as time goes on, there's a new framework that does it better, and has better analysis, and provides better output, and it's faster. And so there's a constant change. Just as fast as AI is changing, these frameworks are also changing, as to which one does something better than the other. And the only way to be a master of any of these frameworks is to apply them and to use them, and to understand how they don't work, and what works and
Mm-hmm.
what doesn't work. Um, and so that's where that's where we come in. That's kind of how our expertise is, that we have such a large palette of these frameworks that, when a new framework comes out, we're able to read and analyze and review and research, what is that framework used for, and should we bring that into our toolbox, or not? Or
Hmm.
maybe just not yet. Like we need to just keep an eye on it for now, and then the next, maybe for a newer project, um, they have fixed some of the things that we analyzed at risks, and we'll apply it to our projects. And so yeah, we're that's what we do. We
They,
don't have a favorite.
and they are lots of benefits of using and choosing the right framework. I just listed a few in the next slide, but there are just some of them you've
These
mentioned
are key.
already. Yeah,
Yeah, these are key.
you've mentioned already one of the ones that I really really like, and it is the first one. It just because you've already been seeing, you don't have to start from scratch or something that you can't be inventing the wheel here. You have some pre-reading code in the libraries, and there are some templates, and we've seen these. I remember, actually, I remember when MailChimp came up, and wow, like that was super easy to use, and I was like, there's no way I'm using any other tool than this, because it was such a friendly environment for a user like me that just wants to,
Send
but
emails.
it was it's almost like if that day some of these user experience things new were born, and we became more demanding. At the end of the day, you're doing that for the front end to experience the best solution. So I love how that's a key benefit, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. Efficiency, speed, definitely one of the key benefits of choosing the right framework. Um, I want to go over number 5, give access to a community and ecosystem. That is extremely important as well, because that's that when problems happen,
Mm-hmm.
and actually I'll pair this with enforces security and reliability. A good community, a framework that has a good community and ecosystem, when there is a security flaw or problem, it
Mm-hmm.
will be fixed promptly and
Right.
quickly.
Yeah.
And um, it's going to be fixed for everyone that uses that framework.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's very important. And so everything else really just helps the developer,
Yep.
right? It's just really just helping the developer, right? Consistency of best practices, abstractions and simplification, um, scalability and flexibility. Like these are all things that the developer, the engineer would have to try and solve for. But by choosing the right framework, he solved that. He solved that
Oh,
problem, those
I,
problems.
yeah, but I like how, okay, so what I'm seeing most in the clients that we have is that they have often opt in for many applications. And so I love how the eighth, it's actually these industry standards that allow this
Interoperability.
connectivity. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
the connectivity on the apps, and it's because you want to allow the user to still use their tools that they feel more comfortable with if they don't want to change, but it is a tool that is already it has already integrated this third parties, what do you call the apps? I ah
APIs or
Yes,
and
thank you,
yes,
that are built in,
yes,
that are just, that's for the user, I think, because many clients have several things that they want. Oh, but I would want still to use these, and but this needs to be improved. So thought that was super good
yeah, no, yeah, interoperability. That is part of every conversation that I have with clients. Like
with
we have
clients.
client, yeah,
It's like your day
it's
to day.
yeah, we because we wanted to make it as seamless as possible as they scale, right? Though the lack of interoperability inflates
Mm,
in cost and inefficiency.
yep.
And so the moment that you're able to connect systems together, um, creates a synergy in a business, especially if we're able to really feed all of that critical data downstream, um, from a CRM to their operation systems to their accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it like creates a flow where now you can just work, you just operate, you
Mm-hmm.
just focus on business, you focus on providing your clients value, um, and you're not going to have a problem, right? There's not an issue.
Yep. Good. S- ooh.
I think we talked about a lot of this, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that you have an effective gap analysis and choosing the right framework is so important. Um, and majority of the people creating these decisions are technical leads. They're going to be project leads. They're the ones that are actually product managers, and things like that. And so, um, I'm going to give them the accountability and responsibility. You choose the wrong thing, that's on you. Like that's you made the wrong decision, and that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Failure
It
is
just
part of
it
learning.
was
It's just
yeah. You didn't discover your client well.
that, or understand the framework good enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, from a development perspective, IT teams, individuals, you know, you need these frameworks, and choosing the right one is going to kind of dictate how your experience is.
Mm-hmm.
um, and we've dealt with, not every framework can do everything, and we've dealt with that. But choosing the right framework that's able to be flexible and adaptable enough where you can, um, follow the framework up until you've reached the limit of the framework, and now you can go outside of the framework to build what it is you want, and then connect that back into the framework um, to follow the standards, right? And so that is important, and that is actually selecting the right framework. It's night and day. So really good job. All right. Again, thank you guys for joining us. If there's anything that you guys need, want any help on, or you think that you need some more in depth, in detail conversations with us, please book a free call with us. Um, and we'll go from there. These workshops are Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11:30 to 12:30, and we're here for you. Right? Any questions, any problems that you guys might find? Which frameworks? Which frameworks do we use? Right? Depends on the project. We write, or we work by project. We build different things. There's Python frameworks, React frameworks, there's IT frameworks, cybersecurity frameworks. So ask us. We're free to share our knowledge, um, and yeah. All right. Um,
That's
there's a
it.
blog post? Are we continue? So we're going to continue
We
the blog post.
I didn't expand it on any blog for this week, but this whole framework, resources, uh, I have an idea that I might present next week as far as a new blog post. But for sure, we're going to be looking into one project that we could use with basic programming skills that could help anyone. So we're gonna be developing a simple project, and I'll see how that goes. I'll present another blog post back then.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you, Eric. It's been super helpful. I think at some point, even before starting EB DevTech, I had a lot of doubts, even when I knew that I kind of sort of understood the software development and environment. But what EB DevTech does, in terms of having to do a business analysis and do all of this scope of work, is just very promising for anyone that is looking into scale their business and just do you know just do better. um, it's just as
Exactly.
simple as that. And I've learned a lot, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be explaining this in this workshop. This is the this next week is going to be the last week of our IT foundations. February will come with a lot of what we have talked in terms of AI. I can't
Yes, we
wait
get to the good
to,
stuff now.
yeah, we're going to the good stuff now, the stuff then that is getting, the most of attention for everyone over there, just, doing um, their innovation. A lot of people are innovating. A lot of people are implementing LLMs, and a lot of people are just doing all of this because they want to help workers do better. So I can't wait.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening and joining us on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn. Um, really, thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you next Tuesday.
Goodbye.
Awesome. Great job, Laura. Next time.
You
See.
too.
Vamos.